Hello there and welcome back to my YouTube channel. James here as ever for today's lecture all about the introduction to the ACCA Business Technology exam. This was formerly known as the F1 paper and also the Accounting in Business paper. Different names but same format and syllabus, which I'm going to walk and talk you through in today's video, along with some exam tips and other insights that I'd like to know as a general introduction if you've got to sit this examination. Now, if this is the first time you've visited my channel before, my name is James, as I said, but I always dedicate all of my videos to my lovely subscribers. So if you'd like to become one of them, be sure to hit the button below, as today's video is dedicated to Virat the King, as you can see on the screen. So thank you very much for leaving the comment, Virat. And this is all about how to read the Accounting in Business paper, which has now been updated, as we said at the start of the video, to the Business Technology exam. So if you've got any questions or queries, make sure you leave me a comment below about the actual examination. I answer them all, and be sure to give the video a massive like to support the channel as ever. So thank you so much. But getting on to today's lecture as we go through, because there are some key elements within the actual syllabus that you need to be aware of. Because first of all, and if you want to take down some notes, pause the video. All the actual timings will be in the description below with all of the links I'm referring to in today's lecture. So the first area you need to be aware of is the actual business organisation itself, its stakeholders and the actual external environment. So what does that actually mean for you? Well, you've got to think about the actual different purposes and actual types of business organisation. The stakeholders, they can be internal and external. So if you actually have an interest within the type of business or organisation you may be given within a question. There are also going to be implications about, well, what are political factors, legal factors you need to be aware of. And they talked about the organisation as a whole with those external environment factors. So you've got to consider in this exam the macro and micro economic factors that are involved with this. This will also link into, again, depending on the type of scenario that you're given within a particular business, well, there are going to also be in this exam technological factors, environmental factors, as we saw in the title, and then competitive factors on top of that. So that really encompasses what you can expect to see in Syllabus Area A. Now, moving on swiftly to Syllabus Area B, and we have the actual business organisational structure, the functions, and governance. Key areas that are regularly tested. So when we actually think of the structure and functions, you've also got to incorporate with that the actual culture. How is the organisation actually designed from a hierarchy perspective? And then what are the sort of social responsibilities of the organisation itself? Maybe think about what sort of sector they're involved in. Maybe it's oil and gas, or maybe it's a potential charity. This also leads on to, in terms of the hierarchy of the business, well, what type of maybe committees do they have in there that actually govern how the business is being run? Again, think about it from a stakeholder perspective, that the shareholders are the actual owners of the business, whereas the managers are the actual employees. So it's just actually breaking it down on there, nice and easy, one by one, and then that'll help you out as you go through all of the areas. Now, coming on to section C on here, and we have on here the actual accounting and reporting systems linked into compliance along with security. So first of all, key paramount thing to get down, because we have lots of overlapping areas, is we actually have accounting, business and finance functions, all to actually compare and contrast and see how they overlap. So you've got to have a good understanding of that in this syllabus, because that then links into any laws and regulations that, again, can be regularly tested on this. And that links into, well, the laws and regulations require information about how the business is being run on a day-to-day basis. And that can be internal information and external information on there. This is really key and important because you'll be given questions in your exam where you might have to discuss the actual controls, systems, procedures, all about data, how the business operates. And then that links into the actual authorities, compliance on there. And then with that data, is it actually secure within the business? How can we make it more effective and more efficient in the way that we operate? Because the final thing to note for section C on here, again regularly tested, is money laundering factors along with fraud. So these are key elements that you need to be aware of in the syllabus, and these are the key terms that I'd want to know if qualified to sit the business technology exam myself. So coming on to syllabus area D now, we've got the actual leading and managing of individuals and teams. So it's not just about accounting and finance, it's all about how that actual organisation and business operates. So you've got to think about, well, what about supervising the employees when they actually work within the business, and then what level are they actually in the business structure, in that hierarchy? Because we've also got to consider, well, if we're bringing in new employees, how we're going to recruit them, what sort of behaviours and culture do we actually promote within the organisation? Again, these are all wider areas about the business, not just accounting and not just finance, because we also have to consider teamwork, how they'd actually collaborate all together. And then, well, are we going to be developing, training, teaching, and are the actual employees going to be learning on the job? So different things there about potential progression. And this can also link into the motivational factors of the management and how that descends onto the employees on top of it as well. Because when you actually hire an individual that you need to be aware of for this module, you're going to have to actually pay them a wage. And then on a year-by-year basis, they're also going to have appraisals. So this is where the leading and managing comes into it, to say, well, how effectively are we managing the employees within the organisation? And then what sort of output are we generating from that as well? So try to think of it from, yes, both a business perspective and a finance perspective. Coming swiftly on to part E now, we've actually got personal effectiveness and communication. So again, this is where it showcases in business technology, it's not always about finance, but it's also about the people skills, because you've got different techniques that you'd need to actually analyse within an actual question. And then if one decision was to go ahead that you'd have to pick out on the format, which we'll come on to after this slide, what consequences could that have on the individual or the organisation? Because different employees within a business come in with different skill levels, different competencies as well. And we actually have to apply different frameworks, whether that's from a legal perspective on there or a regulatory area. And we're always looking to, or should be looking to, shall I say, actually develop as well. But the key thing here is that you should expect to see in your exam definite conflicts in an actual situation or a statement that you could see, and then how are we going to communicate the right effective answer? That is a key aspect on there. Because finally on here, and we'll save the most important to last, is the professional ethics in accounting and business. And if you want to get down in your notes that these key topics, especially in section F, are going to be fundamental in your further exams in the future. So really key you fully understand the actual ethical side of a business, the fundamental principles and the code of ethics, should I say. Key things to note down here are integrity on here, objectivity, professional competence and due care, confidentiality, and also the actual professional behaviour of the actual individuals as well. So these are the real key areas that you have to pick up on, and then say, well, what actual regulations have we got in place? And then in terms of, well, do we actually promote this? How do we actually go about it on the day-to-day aspects of the business? But that just gives you a little overview flavour of what to expect in the actual syllabus for the business technology exam, and make sure you've got down those 6 key syllabus areas. Because in the exam, this is your computer-based exam format on here, and for business technology, the F1 paper, it's broken down into 2 sections. You have section A and section B, as you can see. You've got a total of 100 marks, but this is the key thing that you need to get down in your notes. For section A, you're going to have 30 objective test questions on there, for some at 2 marks each, and then you've got 16 objective test questions again, and these are 1 mark each. So that's where the total of 76 comes into it, as you can see at the bottom. Then we have for section B 6 multi-task questions, or MTQs, you might actually see in your core text, and these are 4 marks each. So hence the actual 6 multiplied by 4. And if you actually need any core text to actually complete this examination, maybe you want some more question practice, if you check out the links in the description of this video, all of the recommended texts and resources are down there as well. Because we need to now actually talk about the computer-based examination itself. What are you going to actually expect? Well, first of all, it's a 2-hour examination. The key thing here is there is no reading time at the actual start of the exam. So in other words, once you've gone through all the instructions, which you can see online, there are some practice tests as well, but once you hit that start, then it goes off, and that is your 2 hours to start off. As we talked about earlier, Section A are all objective test questions, which really means that you've got different options that it may be, say, true or false, or yes or no, or picking the right answer of 1 of 4. Whereas Section B, on the other hand, are all multitask questions. So they're more sort of scenario-based, a bit more complicated. Section B are deemed to be, in my opinion, the more tougher questions on the paper, but they've got a lot more of a mix of how they can test you on there as well. The actual pass mark required for this examination itself is 50%. So in other words, from those 100 marks, you need to achieve 50 to actually pass. And the average pass rate, so if you want to have a look about this on ACCA's website, again, I'll put the link into the description of this video, but it currently sits at about roughly 85%. So what that means is for every 100 students that sit the exam, 85 will pass. And the other key thing just to note down on here is that the actual business technology exam should be your first ACCA exam. So maybe you're doing management accounting, financial accounting. I'd highly recommend that you do the business technology exam first of all. You may not be from an accounting background, but this should be the first one to have down in your list. Because in order to actually pass the business technology exam, there are some key exam tips that I would definitely want to know if I was just wanting an introduction today from watching this class. And the first key thing is actually all of the syllabus can be tested. So you can't question spot within this examination that maybe you can sort of get away with on other examinations. It's a very wide syllabus, but as we touched on earlier, in my opinion, I would say Section B is harder than Section A. And within the exam itself, because you've got 2 hours, so 120 minutes, divide that by the 100 marks, and that is going to give you 1.2 minutes per mark on there. So give or take, with the actual workings out of that, you should be spending about 1.5 hours on Section A and then half an hour on Section B. If you would like a little breakdown of how I would approach the exam, I have got other videos on the channel, make sure you check them out, and I've got a good time strategy on there as well. But for this video, to keep it nice and short and sweet, next point on here as another reason why people fail this exam is they don't fully understand the requirement and they don't read it carefully enough as well. So this is where silly mistakes come into it, especially on a computer-based exam where you're selecting different options. So just bear that in mind, especially when you've got your question practice, pick up on those silly mistakes. And fifth on here, I've put down, it's okay if you're new to accounting. The business technology exam consists of business areas, financial areas, accounting areas, economic factors, general business knowledge on there. It's all to get you into the swing of things to say, well, is being a qualified accountant the route for me? So just give it your best go on here, follow the tips, follow the syllabus areas that we've talked about in this video, and that'll definitely help you out. And the final key point that I'd highly recommend you check out, and I've also done a video on this on my channel, running you through the actual computer-based examination practice platform, and past papers are so key to pass. The more question practice you do, the better off and more likely you are that you're going to be in that 85% and passing your business technology exam. Well, thank you very much for listening today. If you have found the video helpful, make sure you like it down below and subscribe as well so you get access to all my free materials. Make sure you click on one of the videos on the screen. They're highly recommended and they could be the difference in passing your next exam. But as always, on that bombshell, I'll see you next time. Cheers!